Krishna isn't here to read, so I'll ask one of the panelists to do the reading. We'll go paragraph by paragraph, and then we'll kind of analyze each paragraph to see what's working well and what would need some amount of tweaking in order to reach that master student level.
Yeah, I can start things off. Let's go.
All right, start things off
Okay,
first,
let
Ajahn.
me read this. Is there really any doubt that the prevalence of road accidents is attributed to the age for obtaining a driver's license? More certainly, the number of road accidents will decrease if the age for obtaining a driver's license is increased to 20 years. Firstly, a young person's intelligence, competency, and motor skills improve as they age. Secondly, person's level of maturity increases when they leave high school and enter university. Lastly, there will be less drivers on the road if the age to obtain a driver's license is increased, leading to leading to less congestion and road accidents. Statistically, it is proven that the age for obtaining a driver's license is linked to the number of road accidents that occur annually. Very interesting.
All right. I think in general it's a solid start. I do see a couple of things that I would want to adjust to get this from good to great, but I want to hear what you guys think. And persons in the chat, you are able to send your insights in your feedback via the chat. We'll consider those as well, right? This is a group activity, so please feel free to participate. All right, panelists, what do we think? First impression.
So I think it wasn't the best introduction that I have seen, but it was great. And I know Ajana read it so weird because Ajana does not agree with the stance that he took, but it was great and the points were good as well.
So you said it wasn't the best introduction, Ashley.
It
Oh,
wasn't
oh,
his best
oh,
introduction.
it wasn't his best. Okay, but
Yes,
it was good in general.
it was good.
All right, cool. I can take that. And Ashley knows Krishna. In fact, they're kind of rivals. So Ashley, please be unbiased. All right, let's not bring emotions into this. Ashley is here always fighting off Ajnaya, fighting off Krishna. We have our hook right here in this rhetorical question. Is there really any doubt that the prevalence of road accidents is attributed? Nice piece of vocabulary. We'll highlight the wonderful words as we go along. Words that, if you get a chance to use these, well, you probably should, because they really show that your vocabulary range. You don't have to overdo it like Ajnaya and use the biggest words you can find, but you definitely want to sound like you're writing at a college level. If I say at the CSEC level, then you're at risk at getting a grade 2, because there are too many students writing at that CSEC level already. So you want to see if you can just be a cut above the rest, and I guess that's why you're joining such streams, right? So is there really any doubt that the prevalence, nice word, of road accidents is attributed to the age for obtaining a driver's license? So from the rhetorical question, it's kind of clear what side the essay will take. So even though it's not a stance, it's leading into the stance, which can make for some good, a good flow. And then we move into the stance itself, which is very straightforward, most certainly quite emphatic. So the essay will have to do a good job backing up all of this confidence. The number of road accidents will decrease if the age for obtaining a driver's license is increased to 20 years. And I want you to notice that Kimberly, thank you for being here. Haven't seen you in a while. It's it's an interesting technique when the thesis statement is actually the answer to your rhetorical question that you opened with. So you ask the rhetorical question, but the answer becomes the thesis. It becomes like the point of the whole essay, which is very interesting. Nice way to use a rhetorical question, and instead of just leaving it hanging, you actually answer it and make it clear what you think. What you think the thing is, whether you're for or against a particular thing. And then we go into the 3 points. So we have our hook, right, which is necessary. Then we have our stance or thesis, which is necessary. Then we go into the listing of the 3 points to be discussed. A young person's intelligence, competency, and motor skills improve as they age. Intelligence, okay, that's a good point. I think that's going to make for a nice paragraph. Secondly, and this says persons, but I'm not sure. There's a little grammatical glitch here. I guess this should be outside. It's not just one person, right? Or maybe he means a person's, like, speaking individually, a person's, blah blah blah. So there will be a little bit of fixing to be done there. A person's level of maturity increases when they leave high school and enter university. Um, it's This point isn't extremely accurate because this student, Krishna, did not state what the current driving age is, which some persons might just assume is 18. It is 18 in most countries. But are 18-year-olds in high school? Not necessarily. So there's not a perfect correlation between being in high school and being 18, right? Most 18-year-olds are probably not in high school anyway. So I'm not sure if that point is should be expressed in that way. Maybe stick to the age and not stick to the school, to the kind of school you're at. Plus, you can be over 18 and decide to start working and not go to university. So I probably wouldn't drop in the university point. And lastly, there will be, we shouldn't say less drivers since this is a countable noun. There will be fewer drivers, is what we should say. There will be fewer drivers on the road if the age to obtain a license is increased. Right? Leading to less congestion. And now this is a little ambiguous, this sentence. Leading to, leading to. It sounds like it's going to lead to two things. One, it's going to lead to less congestion. And two, it's going to lead to road accidents. Obviously, we know that's not what the writer means. The writer actually means it's going to lead to less congestion and fewer road accidents, right? So we just need to add fewer here to make sure, what's in our mind is what is conveyed on paper. We have to be as clear as possible. Statistically, now what I would do is not start talking about statistics in the intro, right? Might be a personal thing, but details like statistics should be left to the body of the essay where you will do some explanations. So in your intro, you want to mention your 3 points, but you don't want to start supporting anything. That's what the body of the essay is for. So statistically, it is proven. It could be seen as a restatement of the stance, but that's not necessary. The intro is long enough, so we could scrap this and leave it until we get to the body. But apart from that, I think it's a pretty solid start. We have our hook, we have our thesis, we have stated the 3 points. Just a few little errors, but yeah, I think it's not so bad. All right, I'll continue with the second paragraph here. Let me leave this up so we can see how things flow. Research has shown that a person's awareness and reflex improves in their 20s. Therefore, a driver who performs an additional amount of driving experience and studies the road code will be more competent on the road. As a result, there will be less accidents. You get better at something the more you do it. Oh man, I wish that quote was cited. To support this view, a driver who acquires his license at age 20 is more experienced and knowledgeable in driving. This inevitably leads to a decrease in the number of road accidents. All right, panelists, what do we think about
Boy.
paragraph 2?
Honestly, sir, I'm not going to lie. It's it's an okay. It's not. It's all right. It's all right. I wouldn't go down too hard on it. However, I am seeing some hiccups in it because, firstly, research has shown that a person's awareness and reflex. Yeah, but like, like you could probably say what research or something like
Mm.
that, not just research. You could probably be a little bit more specific. Um, the and so therefore a driver who performs an additional amount of driving practice and studies. You see now the therefore, I don't think it's properly connecting the second point, because therefore is when you say therefore, it's supposed to be something that you based on your previous point, and
Mm-hmm.
the 2 points are kind of not joining perfectly together. These are
So different
kind
things. Is
Yeah,
adding, not
exactly.
showing causation.
Yes, exactly.
So as Ajnaya said, we definitely want to add some credibility to the research mentioned here by stating what research. Research conducted by blah 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 um, has shown that blah blah blah, and you could actually go into detail, just a little bit of detail in terms of giving us maybe a statistic or some conclusion drawn from the research. But when you just say research shown is shown, research suggests blah blah blah, we don't know what research. We don't know if you're just making that up. It doesn't sound as credible, right? So more details on the research would be necessary for building out the paragraph. Research has shown that a person's awareness and reflex subject verb agreement improve. Remember, guys, these little grammatical things will get us when it comes on to that part of the rubric that deals with punctuation, grammatical structure, stuff like that. So awareness and reflex, it's a plural subject, so we need a plural verb, improve. So research has shown that a person's awareness and reflex improve in their 20s. Therefore, a driver who performs an additional amount of driving practice, I don't know if I would say perform driving practice, a driver who engages in additional driving practice or something like that, uh, and studies the road code, for a longer period of time, or for an additional 2 years, will, and I wouldn't make this a conclusive statement. I would say will likely, or is likely to be, because clearly you can study for 10 years and still not be competent. That's just a logical fallacy that I want to avoid. Is more likely to be more competent on the road, right? And yeah, I'm not sure if this up here is causing this, or it's like a slightly separate point. So I might use a different transition, adding showing addition, like moreover, or in addition, or something like that. If it is that, this is a different point, because awareness and reflex aren't the same as um driving practice. Driving practice is more about the skill, awareness is more about the maturity, right? So it's like in addition, blah blah blah. So we want to show addition here instead of show causation. Cool. Um, as a result, there will be, and again, countable, fewer accidents. Fewer. What do we mean by countable? Because it has come up again. Fewer drivers up here, fewer accidents down here. What we mean is, because we're able to count accidents, one accident, two accidents, three accidents, we have to use fewer instead of less. That's just a grammatical rule. If it's an uncountable noun, for example, frustration, you can't count one frustration, two frustration, right? So you can't say fewer frustration, you would say less frustration. So if it's countable, you use fewer. If it's uncountable, you use less. Guys, I have some grammar videos. Please check them out. So you're not losing marks in silly ways in your essays. Um, all right, you get better at something the more you do it. It's a nice quote. It does make sense. It's relevant. The only thing, my only issue is You could have told me who said it. So, source. You get better at something the more you do it, is a quote that can be seen in blah blah blah, such and such an article or such and such a magazine, or said by such and such a person, right? It just gives a little bit more credibility when you tell me who said the thing. And since you're able to invent that information, you don't have to overthink it, right? You just write a name or an institution that sounds relevant to the topic being discussed. All right. To support this view, a driver who acquires his license at the age of 20 is more experienced and knowledgeable, yet, or, maybe, or is likely to be more experienced and knowledgeable in driving. This inevitably leads to a decrease in the number of road accidents. All right. I won't critique any more of this paragraph. I think we've looked at the major things that could use improvement, but there's a lot going well as well. So don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. The paragraph does have an excellent point. The point is explained, but the evidences need more detail. That would be the main issue with the paragraph. Give us more details with the evidences you use. All right. Which panelist will take us through the third paragraph here?
All right, many teenagers struggle with peer pressure. It is evident that when a person reaches age 20, they gain a higher level of maturity, as some choices can negatively affect one's future. This results in them making morally correct and responsible choices and not giving in to peer pressure. The prevalence of this is shown by the significant number of drunken drivers who are contributing to road accidents. Undoubtedly, by increasing the age for obtaining your driver's license to 20, you will significantly reduce the chance of having immature and irresponsible drivers on the road. Is that the last? That's the end what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So what do we think?
I was going to try not to comment on the actual points because, when you're in the exam room, your points may vary. So it's not something that's set. But
Well,
I just
it
have to
can
comment
comment
on
on
that.
how logical a point is or how well it's explained, of course.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, firstly, the guy spoke about peer pressure. Then he spoke about negatively affecting one's future when they reach 20. I see no correlation between the two.
Mm.
I yes, peer pressure, but where is peer pressure coming from? It's quite random to me. Um, it's yeah, and I didn't see any statistics or any credible source. I just saw a lot of assertions, like undoubtedly, without any source or examples or anecdotes or anything like that. And I don't appreciate it's up to preference. It's up to preference, but the amount of times, like he said, well, you will be significantly reducing the chance of having immature and irresponsible, like
Mm.
that you there, you is a little bit less formal.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
I mean, one to be honest, I would even go with one, or
mm-hmm.
I would just
One
like
would one, yeah.
not say that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
But overall, I like the significantly. I like the way he used significantly.
mm-hmm,
But it's just making an assumption because he didn't back it up. Okay, yeah, but okay, you just saying something to back up your point.
mm. All right. Very, very fair critiques, I think.
I just want to add to what he said. So in terms of this paragraph here, I see the relationship between the maturity and the peer pressure. I'm seeing it. However, what I'm not seeing is the relationship with the drunken drivers. I feel like this was just randomly placed here. Like, what does the age of 20 have to do with drunken drivers? And if we are speaking about drunk drivers, really and truly, it's mostly the more mature crowd that actually are the drunk drivers, not the less
Right.
mature, right?
Yeah.
Um, let me see what else. So in terms of the you, I agree with, I definitely, what's your name? Is it Ajanaya? Ajanaya. I agree with Ajanaya because if he is using a persuasive technique where he's using like these type of personal pronouns, then it must be throughout the
Right.
entire essay rather than randomly just drop it in once in a while.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's the only two issues that I wanted to highlight so far.
All right, very, very good feedback here. The point of view shift, all of a sudden we're getting the you. That's a bit strange. I think it probably started here with the quote, but it's fine in the quote because it's a quote. But you shouldn't just switch point of view, mid essay and start saying you or start saying I all of a sudden. In fact, stay away from these pronouns altogether and just keep it formal, keep it third person. That shows a more objective tone and voicing in your essay. All right, now about the flow of the paragraph itself, I think kind of to summarize what's happening here is too much is happening. The paragraph is trying to do too much. Too many points are emerging from the paragraph. One paragraph, one point. That is your rule going forward in your essay. Don't try to discuss like 3 points in a paragraph. We see peer pressure, we see drunk drivers, all of these things. Perhaps if you have a whole paragraph for each, you can flesh them out. But because so many points are being crammed into a paragraph, it's difficult to show like proper correlation amongst all of them. Because here we have peer pressure. So I'm assuming, all right, we're going to talk about peer pressure. This essay, this paragraph is going to be about, um, you know, t- teenagers are more likely to succumb to peer pressure, whereas older drivers will not. And the peer pressure is what's going to lead to reckless driving. And so, if we have a group that's yielding to peer pressure, they're going to be more reckless. That's what I'm imagining in terms of a direction. But after this mention of peer pressure, it doesn't really get much more attention. It's not developed. It's just left there as like a hanging detail that we are left to develop on our own as the reader, right? And then
Adam,
we move on to yes, go ahead.
sorry, I just wanted to share something. I think he was trying to correlate peer pressure with maturity by saying that the older you get, you are able to deal with it in a more responsible manner or whatever. But he just didn't drive it home. He did state it, um, as you can see, the results in them making morally correct and responsible choices and not giving in to peer pressure. So he tried to relate it to maturity, that the more mature you get, you're not susceptible to peer pressure, but he just didn't know how to drive that point and link it together. But basically that's what he's saying here, that the more mature you are, you're less able to give in to peer pressure basically.
Yes, that is definitely the intention,
Yes.
but I don't think the relationship was made very
He
clear.
didn't drive it. He didn't drive it home.
Yeah, so how the relationship could have been made clearer would be start out with the main idea, which isn't peer pressure, but a difference in maturity. Older drivers are generally more mature than younger drivers. For instance, younger drivers tend to succumb to peer pressure, which might lead to drunk driving, reckless driving, etc. Whereas older drivers, given their higher level of mental maturity,
Mm-hmm.
might be less susceptible to peer pressure and might be more likely to follow the road code. So if you were to
Agreed.
time the peer pressure in a way that it's clear that peer pressure is linked to the younger people and this is linked to bad driving. On the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, older folks, less peer pressure, safer driving. That way, I can say, okay, peer pressure is a supporting detail.
Mhm.
But here, it kind of sounds like I'm going to get a paragraph about peer pressure, and then it's like a bait and switch. I'm
It's
kind of tricked.
self-collapse. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm kind of tricked a little bit. So it's not that peer pressure isn't relevant, but the connection could be stronger.
Stronger, and by the use
Yeah.
of an example too, if you had used an
Mhm.
example, it could have.
Yes, yes. So it's a good point, Krishna, but I would say make the connection more explicit. Make it very clear that this is why I'm bringing up peer pressure right now. And then you have here, it is evident that when a person reaches the age of 20, they gain a higher level of maturity, as some choices can, and then know this, as some choices can negatively affect one's future. And the as here is indicating that there's some kind of causation. I'm not sure what the relationship is. When a person reaches age 20, they gain a higher level of maturity, as some choices can negatively affect one's future. I'm not sure as would be the word to use here, but I'm glad that you're sticking with the point that the older you get, the more mature you get. But it kind of sounds like by the time I hit 20, you just wake up with a more mature brain. So it could make it seem like a more gradual thing. The older one gets, the more mature they get. It's not that when you hit 20, you just wake up, like a Pokemon evolution. It's just a sudden thing. It becomes a new beast. On your birthday, you wake up being an adult, right? It's more of a gradual progression of maturity as you age, which can be seen as we look at 18-year-olds versus 20-year-olds, across the board. So good point, but it could be refined a little bit. And I like the language here. Morally correct. That's like a nice phrase to add in. Responsible choices, leaning into how the older drivers might just be more sensible overall, which would lead to fewer accidents if we had fewer younger drivers. And prevalence, a nice word again. The prevalence of this is shown by the significant number of drunken drivers. Yeah, and drunken drivers, you would have to do a bit more to correlate drunken drivers to the age. Show me where it is shown that most drunk drivers are, you know, 18 to 20, or 18 to 19 or something like that. And then you have undoubtedly, which is quite strong. Undoubtedly, by increasing the age for obtaining, um, yeah, I might try to avoid the yours here to 20. You will be significantly reducing the chance of having immature and irresponsible drivers on the road. So, what I definitely like about the paragraph so far is the inclusion of relevant vocabulary, right? Some of these vocabulary words, because remember, we're looking at the connotation of words. If you're writing an essay that is against something, it's against a particular idea. This essay is against allowing younger drivers to be on the roads. We want to see that negative vocabulary that's, kind of hitting that emotional appeal. Like, man, all of these words are so negative. It sounds like this person is really discussing a negative thing or something I should consider to be negative, right? So we have the immature, irresponsible, and these contrast well with morally correct and responsible, showing that contrast between the two sets of drivers. So that's a nice technique. Contrast is an overlooked technique, but we can use contrast to show that one group is A and the other group is B. We want group A, we don't want group B. Basically, that is the technique being used in the paragraph. So that's pretty well done, Krishna, that technique. But my main issue, to wrap up, my main issue with the paragraph here is the causation is a bit unclear, and we need more development and more evidence, right? But the points and the vocabulary are good, right? All right. Let me move on to the last body paragraph. Statistics have proven what statistics? Please tell me what statistics. Statistics have proven that road accidents are caused by road congestion, and this wouldn't be the only cause. So road congestion is one major cause or one contributing factor to blah blah blah. Right? It's not that this is the only thing that causes accidents. This means the more persons obtaining a driver's license will equal to more drivers and motor vehicles on the road. This is this is simple math. Yeah. If the age for obtaining a driver's license is increased to 20 years, there will be less traffic and a lower possibility of road accidents. Very clear, very concise. I just want to see what this statistic is. What do we think on the panel?
So my computer has been very laggy, but I hope you can hear me properly. Can you hear me
Yes.
properly? Okay, good. The only thing I can say is the points.
Mhm.
Road, because you are obtaining your driver's license earlier, that doesn't necessarily mean that they will have more people on the road though. It
Of
because
course
it's
it
just
does.
how
Oh, because let's say we raise the driving age to 50. Let's just make it extreme so the math is clear. You raise it to 50, you just eliminated more than half of the driving population. So raising
well,
the
that
age to
would depend on
20,
many factors like
like
the
what?
population.
Mhm.
Like for example, if the population is an aging population, then they will actually have more people driving at 50. But if the population has is full of younger people, then yes, then they will have more younger drivers. But just saying it like that, it doesn't
But Ajnaya,
automatically.
that only affects the degree to which there's a reduction, but there has to be a reduction, right? If you're eliminating a fraction of the driving population, drivers 18 and 19, then you're gonna have fewer even if it's 10% less or 5% less, right? It's just gonna be that we have fewer drivers because this guy who used to drive, he's 18, he can no longer drive. That's one less car, one fewer vehicle, and what it's less chance for problems. So I think the point is good, but it could be expounded on so that we realize that, because I included this point when I wrote a response on this in a sample essay. And what I did is I gave an example. I said, I think I used Jamaica. Jamaica has a population of XYZ. With that, if we eliminated the 18 and 19-year-old drivers, if we took them off the road, that would result in a decrease by X number. We would lose 100,000 drivers just by getting rid of that small subsection. So even though it's just that it seems like a small fraction over a big population, that's a lot of people off the roads, right? That's a lot of people. The number might sound small because you're saying, okay, we have people from 18 to 80 driving. If we take away just the 18 and 19-year-olds, only this small fraction here will be removed, 18 and 19. But this big fraction will still be there. But this small fraction might be 100,000 people in a big enough country. So it's the maths, but maybe an example to illustrate the math would have been good. And you're making that point clear, Ajinaya, that an example or some statistic showing how the math would work um would have been good. I would probably use like a big country, like take for example the US. If you got rid of all 18 and 19-year-old drivers from the US, that's a lot of drivers gone, a lot of drivers off the roads. And it would mean, you know, there would be a slight, at least a slightly safer driving population, right? So a bit more of an expansion would have made that clear. Yeah, would have made that clear. Yeah. All right, Ajnaya, since you're active, run us through the conclusion and then we can wrap this up.
Okay. In conclusion, it is evident that the age for obtaining a driver's license should be increased to 20 years. By doing so,
There will be more mature, knowledgeable, and responsible persons on the road, which will cause a significant decrease in the number of road accidents that occur. I don't really find any problem with it.
Mm,
Or
mm,
just the call to action would just make it a little bit better.
mm,
But
mm.
the how it stands, it's good. I find it's good.
Yeah, I think the it has the two main elements that it needs of a restatement of the stance, and then we have the 3 points being re-acknowledged, more mature, knowledgeable and responsible. Oh, we don't have all three. So here I would also just squeeze in the stuff about the fewer drivers equal fewer um, chances for accidents, and the maturity, and the maturity stuff is here. Um, yeah, so I would try to squeeze in all of my points in here in this little sentence, just to reiterate the 3 points that I would have discussed, and then yeah, it ends. It ends on a. It ends well. So overall, an essay with good points and good vocabulary. A few points needed some more, needed expansion, and we needed to see more compelling evidence, right? But I think in terms of like the transition and the vocabulary and so on, it's generally good.